أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم and Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Mohammad Sadiq Shu'ab. I am a foundation of student at Enhanced School Islamabad Barakot campus. So today I will become a new Maya AI session. So let's start. Hello Maya.
Hey there.
Okay. My first question is what is solar system?
I'm not quite catching that clearly. Could you say that one more time? Something about using a solar system?
Yeah. My next question is what is the center of solar system?
The center of our solar system is the sun. It's this massive star that everything orbits around, all the planets, moons, asteroids, comets, the whole shebang. Pretty much everything in our corner of the galaxy.
Okay. My next question is what is largest planet? Okay. My next question is what is smallest planet in the world?
Mercury is the smallest planet in our solar system. It's pretty tiny, only a little bigger than Earth's moon, actually. Wild how much variety there is out there, huh?
Okay. My next question is largest planet first all over the world?
I'm not quite catching all of that. Sounds like you're about to start working on something. What's the first plan you're diving into?
Okay. My next question is what is gravity vehicle?
Hey, I'm glad you're here too. You sounded like you were starting to say something about getting started on a plan. What's that about?
Okay. My next question is what is how many separates ring form?
Give me just a sec here. Saturn actually has 7 main rings A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. But within those main rings, there are also tons of subdivisions, gaps, and other smaller structures. It's pretty complex, honestly.
Okay. My next question is why is there no air on the moon?
That's a really interesting question. Air isn't actually on roofs specifically, it's all around us, everywhere. But when you're indoors under a roof, you're in that space. Are you wondering why air feels different on a roof compared to inside?
Okay, my next question is there water is there water is not on the moon?
There's actually water on the moon. It's not like pools and lakes like on Earth, but scientists have discovered water ice in permanently shadowed craters around the poles. It's been really exciting for research. Water could be really useful for future lunar missions.
Okay, my next question is why is there no air on the moon? What does the moon the look right?
Ha, that's a good one. There's no hair on the moon because there are no living things on the moon. No people, animals, or plants to have hair. The moon's surface looks like a dusty, rocky landscape. It's covered in craters from impacts, mountains, valleys, and a fine gray dust called regolith. Pretty desolate, but fascinating to look at in photos.
Okay, my next question is why does the moon look white?
The moon actually looks white to our eyes because it reflects sunlight. But the lunar surface is actually dark gray in color. It just looks white because we're seeing the sunlight bouncing off of it. That same effect is like seeing a white car on the highway. The car is a particular color, but when light hits it, you see a bright reflection that makes the object look white.
Okay, my next question is how pure moon or dark?
Sorry, I'm not quite catching what you were saying there. Could you repeat that? The audio was breaking up a bit, and I missed what you said about your Daphlos and house.
Okay, my next question is what are asteroids?
Let me double check that for you. Oh, you mean Cleopatra? There's this asteroid called Cleopatra, and people call it the dog bone asteroid because of its weird shape. It's pretty unusual. It's metallic and has 2 moons too.
Okay, my next question is where is the asteroid belt located?
Let me look that up quickly. The asteroid belt is between Mars and Jupiter. It's the space that separates the rocky planets from the gas giants. There are millions of asteroids hanging out there, just leftovers from when the solar system was first forming.
Okay, my next question is what is comet?
That's a pretty broad question. Commit has a few different meanings depending on the context. Are you thinking about it in terms of like relationships or something else entirely? Or maybe you're asking about the word itself.
Okay, my next question is why do comet have tail?
That one was a bit garbled. I think you might be asking about why people died from COVID. That's a really heavy topic, of course. The virus attacked the lungs and could cause pneumonia and respiratory failure. Some people with underlying health conditions were more vulnerable, and sometimes the immune system overreacted, causing dangerous complications. It was a really difficult time. Do you want to talk more about this?
Okay, my next question is what is different between asteroid and meteoroids?
Let me double check what you meant by marcoids. Asteroids are the bigger guys. They're like rocky bodies that hang out mostly in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Meteoroids are smaller, like fragments of asteroids or comets. When a meteoroid burns up in the atmosphere, that's a meteor or a shooting star. And if something makes it to the ground, it's a meteorite. So it's basically size and location that sets them apart.
Okay, my next question is what is shooting star?
I think I caught fragments about shooting. Did you mean shooting stars? We were just talking about how meteoroids create those when they burn up in the atmosphere.
Okay, my next question is what are asteroids made of?
Let me see what I can find on that. That's a huge question that people have debated for ages. There's really no simple answer because depending on your beliefs, God might not be made of anything at all in the way we think of made of, like matter stuff. Some people describe God as spirit or light or love, something beyond our normal understanding. Philosophers have different ideas too. Some saying God is pure perfection or everything that exists. Really, most people agree we can't fully grasp what God actually is.
Okay, what are asteroids made of?
You mean like what are you made of physically? As in, what's your body composed of? You know, it's water, followed by carbon-based molecules, then other stuff like proteins, fats, minerals, and a whole bunch of other chemical compounds. Pretty complex system, actually. Or were you asking something else?
Okay, my next question is what is what this comment come from?
Torment can come from a lot of different places, honestly. It can be physical pain, like from an injury, but it can also be emotional, like guilt, grief, or feeling deeply trapped or alone. And sometimes torment comes from internal struggles, like really harsh self criticism or unresolved trauma. What were you thinking about when you asked that question?
Okay, my next question is what is what can destroy electricity?
Yes?
Okay, how big
I'm
the
not quite
sun
sure what you're asking.
compart Earth? How big sun compart Earth?
Okay. Could you say that again? I'm a little lost on what you're asking about how sound forms or products get made.
Okay, my next question is how does the
Oh,
sun most come from?
let me quickly check. I'm going to take a look at the camera. A lot of different ways. It's orbiting the center of our galaxy, and it takes about 230 million years to go around just once, but it's also moving up and down as it travels. From our perspective on Earth, it looks like the sun moves across the sky each day because the Earth is spinning. Plus, all the planets orbiting it cause a bit of wobble, too. Pretty complex movement going on up there.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Hey, what's going on?
Okay, my next question is how cold in space?
That's vague, but also kind of awesome. What exactly is this that you're finding so cool?
Okay, my next question is what? How long does light take to travel from the sun?
Ooh, give me a sec to figure that out. So, light takes about 8 minutes and 20 seconds to travel from the sun to Earth on average, but it can vary a little depending on where Earth is in its orbit. Sometimes it's 8 minutes, 10 seconds, sometimes a bit longer at 8 minutes, 27 seconds. It's kind of wild to think about, right? But here's a twist. Those photons actually spend thousands of years fighting their way through the sun before they even start the 8-minute trip to us.
Okay, my next question is what is the lifespan of the sun?
Let me check that out. So, the sun isn't actually spinning at one consistent rate like Earth. Since it's made of plasma, different parts rotate at different speeds. The equator does a full spin in about 25 Earth days, but the poles take closer to 36. Plus, it's tilted by around 7.25 degrees compared to Earth's orbit. It's all pretty uneven, basically.
Okay, my next question is what is solar energy?
Okay, so solar and heat to create electricity. Think of it like this. Sunlight hits solar panels, which are made of materials that convert that light directly into electricity we can use. It's a clean, renewable energy source. It's not like, burning coal or oil that creates pollution. People use it for everything from powering homes to heating water, and bigger solar farms can power entire cities. What got you thinking about solar energy?
Okay, my next question is who was the first person in space?
This sounds like you might actually be asking about the first person in space, not the first question, right? That would be Yuri Gagarin, the Soviet cosmonaut who made history on April 12th, 1961. His flight in Vostok 1 lasted just over 108 minutes and went around the Earth once. Pretty wild when you think about it. The first human to orbit the planet.
Okay. My next question is, who was the first person of whom?
I'm not following you on that one. Could you say it again? I think some of what you said got a little garbled in the transcription.
Okay, my next question is, what is Nessie?
One sec. Let me look that up. Nishi that has different meanings depending on where it comes from. It's actually a pretty common Japanese name meaning west, and it's also a Japanese surname. But it's also a Sanskrit name meaning night. And there's even a creepy folklore story from Bengali culture about this spirit called Nishidak that calls out to people in the night. So it's got a lot of different layers to it depending on the context.
Okay, my next question is, how do people so right?
Ha! That's a... Well, using their hands to move a tool, pen, pencil, keyboard, whatever, to make marks on a surface. But on a deeper level, writing is about translating thoughts and ideas into symbols that other people can understand. It started with cave paintings, evolved into hieroglyphs and alphabets, and now we have everything from handwritten notes to digital text messages. It's really how we preserve knowledge and share stories across time and space. What made you start wondering about how people write?
Okay, my next question is, what is satellite?
Satellites are basically objects that, or talk about satellites now, usually mean the artificial ones humans have launched into space. They're used for all kinds of things, weather forecasting, and even learn more about the planet. They basically circle the Earth, picking up signals and sending them back down. Does that make sense?
Okay, my next question is, what is GPS?
System. It's how your phone knows exactly where you are. Basically, there are a bunch of satellites orbiting Earth, sending out signals. Your phone picks up these signals and figures out how far you are from each site, then uses that info to pinpoint your location. So when you open up maps on your phone, it's using GPS to show you exactly where you are and help you navigate.
Okay, my next
Pretty
question
handy.
is, what is solution?
I'm not catching that clearly. Did you mean next question or something else?
Okay, my next question is, what is Space Solution Asteroid?
In a moment to look that up. So when it comes to asteroids, there's acting at using satellites to gently nudge them off course by using gravity. They've even talked about things like sending water globs to slow them down. Kind of like gently tapping on the brakes. One thing they end up with a bunch actually just successful. They've got another mission coming up to study an asteroid when it passes Earth in 2029.
Okay, my next question is, what does asteroid do?
Astronauts do a wild range of things. The most famous part is probably spacewalks, going outside the spacecraft to do repairs or experiments. But they also spend a ton of time inside doing experiments in zero gravity, working on the spacecraft systems, taking photos and videos of Earth, and basically being scientists doing research up there. They even grow food in space. It's not all glamorous floating around. A lot of it's like being a scientist and engineer in a very tight, complicated lab. What made you curious about what astronauts actually do?
Okay. What is rocket fuel?
Let me see what that is. It looks like Rojetsu is actually the name of an island from a video game called Fatal Frame 4. The name means hazy moon in Japanese, and it's this really creepy, mysterious place with a spooky history. There's a haunted sanatorium there, and the locals worship the moon as this gateway to the spirit world. It sounds like the perfect setting for a horror game, honestly.
Okay. My next question is how long space mission last?
One moment while I check that. That's a tricky one because there are a few things that could be Michelangelo and space related. There's an asteroid named Michelangelo that's about 4.7 miles across. Or there's this luxury apartment in Florence called Luxury Space Michelangelo that's around 807 square feet. But if you're thinking about Michelangelo the artist, his famous ceiling painting at the Sistine Chapel is 131 feet long and 43 feet wide. Which Michelangelo were you thinking of?
Okay. My next question is what is gravity?
All right, so gravity is this invisible force that pulls everything with mass towards each other. That's why when you drop something, it falls down instead of floating up. The bigger something is, the stronger its gravity pull. That's why Earth has enough gravity to keep us stuck to the ground. And the sun has enough gravity to keep Earth circling around it. You have gravity, it's just not very strong. It's pretty fundamental to how the universe works, honestly.
Okay, my next question is why does Earth orbit?
I I think you might mean why does our heart beat? Is that what you're asking?
No, my question is why do Earth orbit?
Okay, so Earth orbits the sun for a couple of reasons. First, the sun is supermassive. It has way more gravity than Earth. That gravity pulls on Earth, keeping it in orbit. Second, Earth is actually moving really fast, like 67,000 miles per hour. If Earth stopped moving, it would just fall straight into the sun. But because of that speed and the sun's gravity, Earth ends up going around and around instead. It's like swinging something on a string. The string pulls it in, but the speed keeps it moving in a circle.
Okay. My next question is how are days night format?
Earth orbits the sun, right?
Yeah,
As it
yeah.
spins on its axis, that's like rotating on a stick. One side faces the sun and gets daylight, while the other side faces away and gets night. It takes Earth 24 hours to spin all the way around, so that's how we get our day-night cycle. The side that turns into the sun gets morning and day, then evening and night. The side
Okay.
that turns away from the sun goes from night to morning. It's pretty simple once you think about it. As a spinning globe. Does that make sense?
Okay, my next question is what is glassing?
Mm-hmm. Could you repeat that? I didn't quite catch what you said.
Okay, my last question is what is universe?
Okay. The universe. Where'd you even begin with that one? Like it's
Okay,
basically
ma'am. Bye
everything, all
bye.
the stars.
So this my time is over. and I hope you like it. See you in the